This is the recap of the Congressional Reconstruction lesson. First, we start off with the Black Codes. The Black Codes were laws passed in the South after the Civil War that restricted freedmen's rights. President Johnson, if you remember from the last lesson recap, was opposed to a punitive Reconstruction plan. His plan had lenient Reconstruction rules. It established virtual slavery with curfews, vagrancy laws, which means it's against the law to not have a job, labor contracts, meaning you lose pay you already earned if you quit, because no one gets paid every moment that they work. They get paid at the end of the week, and so they're building up what they're owed toward at the end of the week. And so if you left early before your paycheck, then you weren't owed any money, meaning you really had to stay to get all the money you earned. And land restrictions, basically only African Americans only allowed to rent in rural areas, plantations where they had been enslaved. The 14th Amendment was passed in 1868. It says that no state can take away life, liberty, property, or equal protection without due process. It essentially applies the Bill of Rights to the states. It's one of the most important amendments. I would argue possibly the most important amendment, even more important than the first, because it means that no government entity in this country, state, local, federal, can do any of those things without due process. As you can see from that picture, it's something that is hotly debated to this day. Radical Reconstruction. Civil rights, important vocabulary. Personal liberties guaranteed by laws such as voting rights and equal treatment. The North was upset about abuses of African American civil rights in the South. Radical Republicans passed the Reconstruction Act of 1867, which sets a strict set of laws for southern states and a military occupation of the South. This is the exact opposite of Andrew Johnson's approach. It's the opposite of what Lincoln would have wanted too. Very, very strict and punitive towards the South. Andrew Johnson is actually impeached. He's the first of two to be impeached, one of which is not Richard Nixon. He was never impeached. He resigned before that. Andrew Johnson's impeached for firing his Secretary of War, which today would just be considered standard. The cabinet serves at the pleasure of the president. The radical Republicans not happy that Stanton was fired by the Democrat Johnson. Technically, they charged him with violating the Tenure of Office Act. You need 2/3 of the senators to convict to remove the president from office, and he escaped by one vote. One person decided not to convict, and therefore, even though an overwhelming majority of senators wanted him convicted and removed from office, he was not. Grant is elected, 1868 presidential election. Ulysses S. Grant, the war hero of the Civil War, wins the Republican Party. The green states on this map, by the way, under Radical Reconstruction, Congressional Reconstruction, were considered not to be readmitted yet, and so they did not have votes in this election. 15th Amendment is passed. It says you cannot be denied the right to vote because of color. Remember, sex is still a barrier. Women cannot vote as far as they don't have a constitutional right to vote at this time. With military protecting the black vote and many whites just not participating, southern states start to elect black leaders. And the South becomes a little bit more Republican because, again, think of who's participating. High African-American turnout, low white turnout. The African-Americans are allied with the party of Lincoln, the party that was against slavery, the Republicans, and you get what's called these are two vocabulary words it's important to know: carpetbaggers, an insulting nickname given to Republicans who moved to the post-war South. They were thought to be moving there to be elected, to have prominence. And scalawags. Scalawags was an insulting nickname given to Southern white Republicans. The thought was the Republicans were the party of Lincoln, the party that had ended slavery, the party that was inflicting Reconstruction. And so being one of them was not very, very favored amongst the white Southerners, and you get the derogatory term scalawags. That is the recap of our Congressional Reconstruction lesson.